I've given a lot of thought to My Hero Academia over the past few years, thinking about how much I love the show, how people love or hate it, its strengths, weaknesses, all of that. My love for the show isn't as strong as it was before, but I'm still going into every season of My Hero a big fan. And since I read the manga beforehand, I was really looking forward to season 5 since I thought I knew how it was going to turn out. But since season 5 has been airing, there's been some anime-only changes that have upset a lot of people, and I want to dive into it. My last video on My Hero was about looking at each season and comparing it to public opinion to see if the series was overhyped or not. I recommend you check it out if you have time. I still want to talk about overhyped this season, but it's not my main focus. This time I want to dive into the whole season and talk about what's good, what's bad, and how My Hero Academia Season 5 could have been better. Before I do any of that, I'm gonna have to order you to hit the like button. I am no longer asking. So hit the goddamn like button or I'll hit your goddamn mother with the truck. I may or may not have certain truck-based individuals on payroll. Just saying. This season, like most other My Hero seasons, starts off with a filler showing off all of Class 1A's quirks. We really don't need these episodes. No one likes filler, but at this stage, we're almost at 100 episodes into the series. We don't need to be reminded of what everyone's quirks are. Coming off of the Pro Hero arc, we're put directly into a training arc. It's 5 team battles between members of Class 1A against Class 1B. I would have preferred the teams mixed between the classes so we could have seen people in Class 1A face each other like at the UA Sports Festival. A Bakugo Todoroki rematch would have been sick, or even have Deku on one team and he has to fight against a team with Bakugo and Todoroki on it. I don't know. I think this would have been better because from what we've seen of Class B, building up tension for them being strong opponents is hard. No one in their class stands out as being able to compete with the likes of the strongest students from 1A. So making the strong students in Class A fight each other was always going to have more tension and excitement in my opinion. Besides that, I think a lot of the fights are creative in the way the teams use their quirks together and just their overall teamwork. So even though there weren't life and death stakes this arc, I enjoyed it. And this arc, we finally got some more explanation on what's happening with Deku's quirk. This is what I wanted to talk to you guys about since my last video. Deku has 7 quirks. One For All was only believed to pass on the ability of strength to different users, but it's revealed that Deku actually has all the quirks of the previous One For All holders inside of him. When I first found this out, I thought it was super jarring and came out of nowhere, but if you look back at the moments of the series, it's become easier to accept. They've been setting up for this. Especially the way All Might talks about One For All, he doesn't describe it like it's normal super strength. He describes it like One For All builds power as it's passed on, even though he didn't know it could actually store the power of those quirks. Deku doesn't get all these quirks at once though. For now, he just got one and he could barely use it. I thought this was gonna be bad for the series because the power of scaling would get out of hand. I don't want another Dragon Ball, man. Because pushing past your limits is cool, but if you do it 20 times, it's kinda uninteresting. And when I consider that All Might in his prime, when he fought All For One, still got massively injured, I think the series can justify that maybe a level up is necessary. Just as long as all of Deku's quirks aren't broken, but we'll find out more later. Even though this is a huge power-up, Deku could be facing All For One day, whose quirk is that he can steal people's quirks, so this was probably necessary. All For One could literally find a quirk one day that enhances all of his other quirks, and then Deku's gonna have to fight him when he was even more powerful than when he fought All Might in his prime. So I really do think this is necessary. When the season first started, reception wasn't great. People hated this arc in the manga. Personally, I enjoyed it in the manga, but thought the anime did a better job at making these fights more engaging, just on pacing and animation alone. It's just sad because this time it felt like no one was talking about My Hero. I blame the manga readers a bit for probably saying this arc isn't good, but to be fair, it's not an interesting arc. The most interesting thing happens with Deku's quirk, and that's almost right at the end. Either way, I have few complaints, me personally. This arc focuses on Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki as they learn from Endeavor during their work study. Basically, another training arc, but with a lot of time thrown into the Todoroki family's dysfunction. But not too much actually happens. During this arc, it became clear to me that the animation quality had dropped. I had some theories before that animation wasn't as good this season, but nothing truly confirmed it for me until we met Burnin. Burnin's quirk makes it so her hair is on fire, but her hair isn't moving. Some anime may have been able to get away with this, but Endeavor is in this show, and his fire is always moving and being animated. So when I see these two characters stand next to each other, both supposedly on fire, but only one of their flames are being animated, I'm gonna notice. The other issue with this arc is that it's 6 episodes. In the anime, the Endeavor Agency arc runs the same amount of episodes as My Villain Academia, which is crazy because My Villain Academia is based off of almost twice as many chapters. It really does feel like the wrong decision to make this arc be 6 episodes. The anime adapted 12 chapters into 6 episodes, which would be exactly 2 chapters per episode. If you've seen some of my other videos, you've probably heard me say most anime adapts 2 chapters of manga into 1 episode. The exception to that is My Hero Academia. My Hero usually adapts 2.5 chapters an episode. The Jordan Training arc was 2.4 chapters an episode. The UA Festival arc, 2.5 chapters an episode. The Overhaul arc, 2.4 chapters an episode. So the end of her agency arc being 2 chapters an episode on an arc where there isn't much happening doesn't seem like the best choice. Chapters per episode aren't the end-all be-all because you can still have a good anime based off of 2 chapters per episode or less as long as the source material is good enough or has enough things happening in it to take up a whole episode. I don't think this arc did. This arc in the anime should have probably been 5 episodes instead of 6. If they cut some stuff, they could have probably made it 4. In most cases, I'd never suggest cutting manga content to shorten arcs, but after we talk about the next arc, you'll probably see why I recommend it here. Ah, fuck, man. I don't even know where to start. I'm literally reading this off a script, yet I don't even know where to start. The anime made bad changes to My Villain Academia. My Villain Academia was 23 chapters in the manga, but got turned into 6 episodes. You would think that would mean they adapted 3.8 chapters an episode, which sounds like a lot to adapt. That's because it is. And to make up for that, they just cut bare content from this arc. And before I can even move on to what I think about this arc, I just need to address how little sense this made. Of the 3 arcs adapted this season, My Villain Academia was the best one. On my last video when I talked about how the season was going to be better than season 4, it's because this season had My Villain Academia in it. But it seemed like they wanted to end the season at a certain point in the story, so to do that, they rushed through this arc more than the others. Even though I've talked nicely about the other 2 arcs this season, they're both not nearly as good as this arc should have been. There was also another filler episode this season advertising the new My Hero movie, but that should have just been turned into another episode for My Villain Academia, so they wouldn't have to cut as much content. I don't know if this was never the plan, and during production, maybe higher-ups told them that they had to rush this arc for whatever reason. I have no way of knowing whose fault this is, and I don't care about passing blame. I just want to acknowledge that this shit shouldn't have happened. Alright, I've done enough ranting, so I want to talk about the actual arc itself. It's good. All my bitching aside, I really like this arc in the anime. Mind you that my bitching is deserved and very reasonable, but I've seen people try to say that the anime ruined this arc, and that's a big exaggeration. Just to clarify, My Villain Academia is about Shigaraki and the League of Villains taking on the Metal Liberation Army, the MLA. The MLA being an extremist group who believes that quirks should be free and the government has no right trying to regulate people's use of their quirks. As far as battle shonen go, this is highly uncommon. We're used to seeing an episode here or there where they focuses heavily on the bad guys, but this time, the bad guys are our main characters. Honestly, I say it's highly uncommon, but I can't even think of another anime where they spend an entire arc focusing on the antagonist of the series. And they set it up in a way that really makes you want them to succeed. They cut this from the anime, but where we find the League of Villains at the start of this arc in the manga is with them attacking another villain group. This one being a group who commits crimes against people with quirks that make them look less human, like Spinner. And I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like racism to me. And it's okay to be evil, just not racist. And the League of Villains thought so too. So they killed their asses. See guys, they were the heroes all along. Not really. The real reason is because they wanted to rob the place in hopes they had money. Because after All For One got captured, the League of Villains had been struggling with resources, money, and their reputation. A big part of why their reputation suffered is because even though Shigaraki is known in the underworld as All For One's pupil, he doesn't have the respect or strength that All For One had. It's why Overhaul wouldn't bend to his will, and why the Metal Liberation Army has no trouble picking a fight with him. This is further confirmed when Gigantomachia, All For One's trusted former bodyguard, refuses Shigaraki as his heir because of how weak he is. Even though they're literally villains, they have enough likable qualities to be our main characters. In this arc, they're underdogs. Shigaraki's failing to live up to his master's expectations, or so the world thinks, and the actual war they're fighting, they're heavily outnumbered, and they're fighting another villain group, so you don't feel bad when they kill anyone. We even get more insight into all the characters' backstories. Toga's backstory explains that she's so messed up because her quirk gave her an obsession with blood, and her parents tried to make her feel disgusted with that. After repressing that for years, she snapped. We even got more of Twice's backstory and what his life was like after his parents died, and we saw him overcome his trauma of duplicating himself to save his friend. Even Tomura had a sad backstory. He was abused by his father for wanting to be a hero, and he accidentally killed his whole family when his quirk manifested. After that, he wandered the streets for days, if not weeks, with nobody trying to help him in this hero-based society until All For One takes him in. The only one who cared for him was a villain. It just makes sense that he's evil. There's so many good character moments in this arc. Even though the anime cut content, there's still a lot of great moments for the League. The only exception being Dabi, whose backstory is for a later arc probably, and Spinner, who was narrating a portion of this in the manga. His sections were basically all cut, and that is truly a shame, but it doesn't make this arc trash in the anime. It just makes it not as good as its manga counterpart. The finale of this arc was great because it showed Shigaraki overcoming all of the League's issues with one fight. He proved his own strength, the MLA bent to his will and work under him now, so he has their respect and he also has their resources and money. It's almost a perfect ending. Notice I said almost. I want to finally address the elephant in the room. They really messed up by switching the order of the last 2 arcs. Regardless of them hemorrhaging content from the manga, switching the arc order makes My Villain Academia a worse arc. If you were paying attention, you already knew the end of My Villain Academia. In the end of her agency arc, when Hawk spies on the League of Villains, we see all the League members there with Destro giving orders to Hawk. And Toga said that Shigaraki's gonna destroy the country. Let's analyze that. So before My Villain Academia could happen, we already know that these 2 groups of bad guys are gonna team up together. Hawks is going around sending code that the Meta Liberation Army is the enemy. So we know that they're still around, and it's not a matter of just 1 or 2 members defecting to the League of Villains. Remember how I made a big deal about how My Villain Academia is an underdog story and makes us root for the League of Villains? When I was reading the manga, the strongest moment to me was after Tomura beat Destro submitted to him and said he would serve the League of Villains. Then Tomura said, "You're a CEO, right? That means you got money to burn." Cause when I read that, I was like, shit! I forgot I was rooting for the bad guys. They're gonna use this army to fuck up the main characters. It's basically the switch for the readers to stop looking at the story as a group of underdogs or maybe even anti-heroes and to have them look at them as villains again. And the anime robbed us of that. Even if they wanted to switch the arc order, they could have just removed Hawk's scenes from the end of her agency arc and show them at a later date, or at the very least just modify them and then reveal what Hawks was actually talking about in a later date. And I know that's not true to the manga, but the fucking anime isn't true to the manga, so why didn't they just do it? If the goal of this season was to end off on My Villain Academia because it's a bigger finale and the end of an arc, I could have allowed it. But the end of the season was the start of the next arc. And most of the episode is just Class 1A showing off what they learned on the work studies. If the last episode of the season was pushed to be the first episode of season 6, we could have just skipped the filler episode at the start of each season that shows off what everyone's quirks are and replace it with this. Because this is actually canon. People aren't just showing off the same quirks anymore. They're showing off the new techniques and abilities they learned. So I don't get why things have been done the way they are. I just wish they were done differently. I put up a poll on the My Hero Academia subreddit to see if people like season 5 more than season 4 like I predicted they would. I was terribly wrong. With over 1,000 votes, it's clear people like season 4 more, and honestly, I'm torn. I like season 5 of My Hero Academia better than season 4. Even though season 5 switched the arc orders and cut a lot of content, I read the manga beforehand, so the joy I got from reading these arcs done properly wasn't taken away from me by the anime. I will have to admit that season 5 has had the worst animation quality of any My Hero Academia season by a noticeable margin, but it's still not that bad. It's Studio Bones, so their worst is better than the average studio's best. So to once more answer the question I asked in the last video, is My Hero Academia overrated? This time, the answer is no. Since I made my last video over a year ago, the score of every season of My Hero has fallen, and this season didn't even get rated at least an 8. And regardless of if I like season 5 or not, no one was talking about it when it started airing, and people don't like the changes that they made, myself included. That's all I have to say on the matter. If you liked this video, make sure to comment what you thought of My Hero Academia Season 5. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. My socials and my Twitch channel are linked in the description if you want to follow me somewhere that isn't YouTube. Thanks for watching, I'm LeeTSimba, and I'll see you guys next time.